Hello.
Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Happy second week of December. How are we all doing? How are we all doing? Ricardo doing great? Love it. Hydrations. That's what we
This is the
want.
right group.
That's it. That's what we need. That's what we need.
Back to the primary.
Yes, that's it. That's it. That's it. Sweet. You know how it goes? Oh, we got some strong mustache games over there, Louise. Love it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. We good. We good. All right. Drop it in the comment section, the chat section. We all know how it goes. Which part of the world are you from? What's the temperature? Let's get the gang rolling in. We want to see how much pull Jesse gets every single time. It's a challenge against himself. That's what we want to see.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Ugh.
What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? Too cold. I know. Too cold email. Ha ha ha. But let's go. Let's go. Fort
Wish I was okay right
Lauderdale, 70. All right. All right. Germany, gray and cold. I just wanted to do this question to all of you, including Akash, this one time because I am in the other side of the world. I'm enjoying a beautiful 28 to 36 degrees Celsius. I am wearing just a t-shirt. I've got like a nice little AC running right now while all of you are freezing your butts off. So haha in your face. The one time of the year that I get to be happier being in the other corner of the world. That's about it. All right, everyone. You all know this beautiful, familiar face. We got Jesse Ulay, we
now.
got Akash, Ravi Kumar, who runs our CSM activities here, and you probably spent a bunch of time on calls with him already. They're going to be running the show. I'll be here as well. We're going to go back to our roots this time, which is fun and exciting. I'm going to go straight into question and answers around deliverability because we have so many of those questions that we want to have solved. Um, from catch-alls, warm-ups, not warm-ups, domains, blacklistings, IPs, MX records, server IPs, dedicated IPs, using SMTPs,
You name it.
tenants, using
We got
you
it.
name it. There's all bunch of fun stuff there. We've got the conspiracy that started and end over here. I believe these office hours end up leading to a bunch of features that the entire market pushes out as well. AI
They steal it from
copies,
us.
warm-up copies, yeah, a whole bunch of stuff. So we'll talk through everything. I am going to go ahead and ask all of you to definitely keep dropping your questions in the chats. We'll do our best to get them answered as well as open the floor. But and we'll also use Akash as a way to run through. But anyway, floor is yours, Akash. Take the heat, sir.
Thank you so much, Vaibhav. So, drop your questions. I'll be the one to communicate that with Jesse. And you all know Jesse, he has answers for everything. So, Jesse, first I'll
Definitely.
start with mine. I had a couple of ones off late, especially going through calls. So, we'll start with the basics, right? So, the first step you do is the infrastructure. So, what's new? How's Outlook doing? Because that's been the most common question of late.
Yep.
People have been facing issues with Outlook. 100% spam. Is there anything that we can do get past through that? Everything seems to be fine when they're sending out emails to Gmail. So, what are your thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, so what we're still seeing is Outlook still sucks right now. It's still hard to get into the inbox. And we're talking about this, what we're looking at right now is recipient email. So one of the things we've started to really do, whatever we're testing, we will first thing we do is we always in our when we're actually enriching our data, we always put what inbox they have, of course, so we know at the end what our reply rate was per inbox.
Mhm.
That's been really telling. And what we're seeing is like, for every one or two replies you get on Outlook, you're getting like, you can get up to 10 on Gmail, right? Like, so it's just like a whole different world when you're emailing it. And another dimension that we look at is the size of the company, of course. That's another one that like seems to be resonating right now. When
Mhm.
people are emailing the upmarket, they're getting a lot lower reply rates right now, obviously because of the security that they've implemented, things like that. So, you want to pick if you're especially if you're running a cold email lead gen agency, you definitely want to pick and choose your audiences. And you want to scan your list, especially if you're taking on a new client, you want to scan your list and just say like how successful you're going to be. Try to figure out their TAM first, right? And one thing we do have in our platform at Lead Magic, we allow you to basically you can scan all of the, with our validation, even our validation tool, you can do a quick check on the market that you have for, less than a tenth of a penny or whatever it is. It's like 0.0001 or sorry, 0.05. And that's, very low. So you could scan a whole market, really, the list that you're going to go target for that user before. That way you don't take on clients that you can't get replies for. You're just going to have, but we are seeing what is really nice still is
Mhm.
Gmail is still allowing a lot of emails through. And what's good about that is if you target the valid ones, you can even see an even higher reply rate than you could before. So, you're going to have to play the odds here, right? You're going to have to play what
Right.
you can attack. Good
Got it.
question, though.
So that's the answer. And I see a couple of faces who had this question during my call. So this is the answer for now. So the next question, right? So from my end, when it comes to email verification, I've got a lot of questions as to why should we not reach out to catch-all emails? So can we reach out to catch-all emails? So
Yep.
what is the difference? Why only verified? Is there any impact when you also reach out to catch-all emails? And we'd love to hear your
Yeah.
thoughts because Lead Magic is one best tool when it comes to email verification.
Yeah. So here's sort of the where it all comes down is like when you're talking about email validation, there's a little bit of and it really gets into the email finding space, really is where it goes. For email finders, right? Like this is where I want to go is the reason that you're seeing wildly different like success levels on different email finders is that there's these types of emails called catch-all. What that means is the user's IT team, the domain, right? So like if it's, gong.io, it's a catch-all. Every single person at gong.io has a catch-all email. That is just the way it is. What that means is every one of those emails you try to validate. The normal way people validate is they run a server request to the mail server and they say, does this person's inbox exist? I'm about ready to email it. And then right before they email it, they don't email it and they just stop and tell you that they know it's valid, right? It
Right.
requires a similar behavior as to what you would need for sending an email. So you need a healthy inbox, sorry, like a healthy domain, a healthy IP, the same type of thing. It's a little bit different on scaling it. And you need an ISP that supports for the best accuracy, you need an ISP that supports you to connect to it via port 25, which is a restricted port on a lot of ISPs. So to start your own validation
Mhm.
service is a little bit tricky in the beginning, but and then in the volume becomes a problem too. So, basically what you're trying to do is figure out, okay, can I email this or not? If you really want to know the best answer, and I know there's at least one email finder that will disagree with me on this one, and I disagree with them as well. But I'm a little bit biased here. But as you can imagine, uh, you really need to start with the valid emails first. And the reason why is
Right.
because regardless of what tool you use, and I do not care which one it is, there's definitely going to be a performance hit on catch-all emails. You can definitely validate that they're there. There's different methods to doing it. There. I, I'm trying to be a little cryptic about the methods because they're all a little bit different. Some of it's like a social media verification. Some of it's like you ask, you do like a forgot password, and if it's, some sort of like, I don't want to get into all of that because there's different ways to do that. But the point is that if you email those, it's going to be a little bit less accurate the uh, than the actual valid emails because the valid emails, the server actually tells you that the inbox exists. The only thing you got to watch out for there
Right.
is sometimes they will try to trick you, of course. So there's
Right.
a thing called gray listing, and that's where you're trying to like sort of make sure you're not getting tricked. It's sort of like shadow banning in social media. So to make a long story
Mhm.
short, start with the valid emails always, because those are the ones that you're getting an MX record pull, and that really matters, meaning that like that will always be. Now, I know there's a lot of vendors out there that do catch all. We do our own catch all validation. They all have different ways of doing it. Some of them use databases, some of them use, like I said, the forgot password methods. They do things like that. You got to be careful of like those ones are going to have a little bit higher bounce rate, right? Now, when I say higher, I mean
Right.
like maybe 5%, 10%, right? That's what you got to watch out for. Uh, and the ones who don't
Mhm.
tell you, I think it's just kind of shady, to be quite honest with you, because you know, they know it's going to be over their guarantee, their bounce rate guarantee, and they know it's going to be way over that. And they're still telling you to email them like it's the same type of email. But if I had to compare it to something, it'd be like 93 gasoline versus 87 gasoline, right? The 93 is going to go a lot. You wouldn't want to put that, you wouldn't want to put the 87 in your premium Lambo, right? You know, you don't need that thing like stalling out on the side of the road there, right? You know, so you got to think about that. Like it's a really critical and important decision to make as how you go about it. But um, yeah. So, and anybody have any
Got it.
questions? Feel free just to drop them in.
And there was picking one from the chat, Jesse. So taking a step back, talking about Microsoft, you did mention when you're reaching up to upmarket, the responses might be low. So there's a question as to how do how do you segment upmarket? Are there any size or things that you measure in a market company?
Yeah, so what we found in upmarket that works a lot better is the older domains definitely work better. Now, this is the problem. Most of your domains are brand new, right? So that's one problem. You know, you can definitely buy some, you know, if you're really like, look, if it's your goal, like I always think this is the great thing about like Smartlead, you can integrate with other ways to do things. You have webhooks, you can do whatever you need to do there, but like you do want to be thinking about the channels that you're using, right? For the right, you know, source. And the worst thing you could do is get mad at, you know, like a smart lead if you start to have some issues. God knows what the support team looks like has to deal with on a regular basis. Like what you're getting blamed for. Like, you know, I can only imagine what your company is getting blamed for these days. And you know, just for like deliverability changes day over, you know, every single day. So you have to just kind of consider that. But I think what you got to do is you got to have, you know, the older the domains definitely help. The other thing that you can kind of do is you probably want to get these domains started up on Gmail, right? Like what we've seen better luck with is if you're starting them on Gmail, you're starting to get a reasonable reply rate and you're hitting valid emails, then maybe make the switch. But if you go right into Outlook, it is like on a brutal, like a new domain. It's just brutal. I mean, it's just like hurts. Um, and this could all be temporary, right? What they did is they made a pretty dramatic change, and these changes are always changed a lot. These things change a lot, right? So that's one thing to consider is you're going to want to like look at it over time, and these things tend to change over time. Like in the case of Google, I think it's gotten a little easier because what's happened is they're starting to push out a lot of their AI functionality. So they almost want you to like build your own
Mhm.
spam model, right, with their chatbot on the side of the screen, right? Like that seems to be like something they're doing. So I think you got to really pay attention to that, and you know something huge that you really have to pay attention to. It's a good question though.
Got it. Got it. And picking one other question from the chat. So if you use a tool like Prospeo and you'll find a catch-all email and validate it with debounce, find my mail, etc., and it passes the test, should we not send to this email?
So I'm not. So Dbounce has. I don't believe they. So if it's a catch-all email, right?
Mhm.
Dbounce is a validation tool. So what's so there's two product. Dbounce has two products, I believe, right? There's a finder and they have a finder and they have if I know they do. I've already done like like I've checked every one of these email verification tools. So they do I think what they do is they do a validation on it, which is like the MX check thing. What I would say there is you can't if it's a catch-all email on debounce, and they probably wouldn't send it back as a valid email, right? It should be the same status. So Prospeo, if I can remember correctly, Prospeo gives out like valid catch-all in yeah, even though I was looking right now, like yeah, they have yeah. So there's two parts of debounce. There's the part that does find somebody's email. I even logged into the service just to check because I've used all of these services. And you know, they when they give out a catch-all email, I believe they're using I believe what Debounce is doing is they're using like a validation still. So if it's a catch-all, they're probably not giving it out as a pure valid. I think they use
Mhm.
like a gravatar, like they'll like check if there's a picture of the person on the email address. That's like how they're doing it. Find someone's email address. But on the bulk validation, they only give out valid, invalid, catch-all. So I think it would still show up as a catch-all, hopefully, right? Like the only time that usually differs is if one of the providers decides to cache the data somehow. Sometimes it can be a little off there, but very rarely is it off. It's usually the same. You're gonna find like this is one thing. A lot of people here probably use the clay waterfall or whatever. You're gonna find that a lot of the providers are giving the same answer. Right. There was somebody the other day
Right.
who kind of, when you're thinking about it, you got to really look at that first. So debounce is probably a better source because like it's a better way to know on the validation side if it's a catch-all. Now it's a 0 or a 1. It's either a catch-all email address or not. If Prospio is giving you a catch-all email, I would probably test the hell out of that because I think you're going to be in a little bit of a you could run into a little bit of a problem. Now, the bounces typically don't always come in like 48 hours later, too. So that's something else to think about. There's a couple of gotchas there. So whenever you're emailing validation, valid emails, whenever you're doing
Mhm.
validation, you really got to be very careful if you're hitting catch-alls. Like there's just, I know there's going to be some vendors who might disagree with me here, but if you've tested this at scale, you know that there is not like I mean it's 5x worse. It's going to be at a minimum 5x worse, right?
Right.
It just depends on the method they're using, and they might be cryptic about it. And a lot of the reasons why they're going to be cryptic about it is because it's probably a little bit, it's tricky on what they're actually doing. It's a database, or they're doing some other sort of check that might not have the same compliance that you would need. So you just have to think about the impact there. And then
Got it.
there is a lot of people who say like, oh, this is the best value. There's one service out there that I hear a lot of, Bounce Ban. Of course, I hear them a lot with Catch All. And one of what they're really doing is they're just checking LinkedIn. Now, of course, we're
Mhm.
checking. We do the same check on our validations. I mean, on our catch-all valid ones as well. Like that's what they're doing. They basically just check. They run against it and then they check LinkedIn on top of it, which is what a lot of them do, right? This is something to consider, right? If the person doesn't work there, obviously they probably don't want to email that. Now, it's funny. It could still be a working email actually, because a lot of times they don't shut your email off when you leave a company. This is just something to think about. So that's
Right.
sort of the how you'd handle that one.
Got it. Thank you so much. And since there are a lot of questions getting queued up, and since we're falling back to the roots, people, if you have questions, please raise your hand. We'll have the session AMA. I'll spotlight you, and you can ask your
Do it.
questions directly to Jesse.
That'd be great to hear some other people here.
Absolutely. So, right at the center, React, raise your hand and turn on your video. We'll spotlight you. You can shoot your question directly.
Beautiful.
Oh, damn, we're going straight in. Nice.
Sam, can you turn on your video if that's okay? I'll spotlight you.
That's going to be the reason. Probably everybody had the questions until they said turn on the video, right? And now they got to wake up, get out of bed. You had everybody then. You just had to go with
So that,
it. Now
Yeah, I'm
everyone's
actually
scared.
working from that.
Nobody wants to get on video. Step it up. Come on, man.
Yeah, a little bit shy. I would admit it.
It's all right. It's all right, man.
So you were talking about the catch-all email and that stuff, but my problem is totally different. Whenever we're having in Outlook emails, even if they're valid after validating them, they always end up in a spam. I've even tried the Smartlead delivery test, and it always a bad result when it comes to Outlook emails.
So you're saying you're not able to inbox on any Outlook right now, right?
Yeah, whenever we're filtering the emails, if I made it only Google Workspace, it's always a good result. But whenever Outlook's included, it's a bad result.
Yeah. So I mean, every business is different. Everybody needs to email different people, but I'm only emailing Google people right now.
Hmm. So that's a trend.
I mean, it's that's why, like, obviously, like, it's in the product. You're seeing it there. I mean, we obviously saw it. Like, Smartlead saw it way before anybody, right? Like, nobody else had this right away, right? We were talking about matching, right? It used to be more the match that mattered. It used to be kind of even, right? That's the problem. What's changed is, and I always talk to people about this, is like what changed is it was like matching was first, but then it was like screw the matching. The matching doesn't even matter. It's the it's actually the recipient ESP is what matters the most right now. Obviously, that's going to be the trend. I think that trend's going to continue. Now, it's not to say that you won't get into Outlook. The question is like, why do you really need to get into Outlook? Is there? I mean, obviously, you want a larger market, but you want a reply rate that's good. Like, if you take on, depending on the clients you take on, if you're a lead gen agency, or if you're a like a SaaS or something like that you're building, you know, you might have a more narrow market. So I definitely feel badly for some of the organizations out there that are like, but this is where you're gonna have to like, it's hard. It's a hard decision to make, right? I think if you're gonna, what you want to probably do, this is what I've been telling people to do, right? When you're going back to Google, what you're gonna want to do is widen the scope of who you're emailing a little bit, right? So you're going to want to probably let in a couple of those like lower level people. Maybe you're going to want to do that because you are going to get a significantly better reply rate on Google. Now, the good thing is some of the ground that you lost on Outlook, you probably made back up on Google, right? Because it's gotten a lot easier now to get into the inbox with Google. However, if you play the catch-all game, you can sometimes draw yourself backwards the other way. That's another thing I've been it's not that they're not good emails, it's that you do have to be careful, right? The methods that are used to find a catch-all email are much different. So, it's a little bit of scan the entire TAM first of the offer that you're out there with. If you could get it to anybody, well, don't make your job harder, make it easier, work harder or smarter, not harder, or whatever it is. The way you do that is you just email Google first. Let's see what happens. And then you
Yeah,
got the
we did.
inbox.
With all my lists, but the problem is Outlook is taking a greater space. For example, if you got 100,000 leads, it's probably more like 70/30.
And this is the problem. Yeah. So it just depends on what you're doing. Like I talk to other people that are like, well, Google's our best anyways. So it's like not, like it depends on who. Are you emailing financial services and like,
Yeah,
uh,
financial services.
yeah, financial services is where it's really hard because anybody who is on traditional Exchange, right, like Microsoft Exchange, is on Outlook.
That's a
And
problem.
a lot of them have even gone up to like, so when they've graduated to like security gateways, and some people use like the Microsoft gateway stuff, like their Defender stuff and all that other stuff that they have, not Defender, whatever the equivalent is, Threat, whatever their the other one is, not the one that tells you that if you landed in the inbox, the one that tells you how to block people that are spamming you, quote unquote. But I think you got to look out for the metrics really matter out, but start out with Google. And if you just run out of Google, look, there's other channels probably you want to incorporate into your outreach, right? There's ways you can integrate other tools and Smartlead. I think what you want to really do though is you really want to be pretty aggressive on hitting valid ones first. I think where people are getting hammered is if they don't know if the Outlook is if it's a valid inbox. I know Microsoft tends to be more catch-all, but if you look and see if it's a valid and it's not on like a security gateway, start with those ones first. So maybe that gets you back 20 to 30% of your list. How are you what do you do to find your emails that you're using now today?
Yeah, we use Lead Magic.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't recognize the email I usually do, but yeah, so you're noticing what you're saying is you're noticing by the insights that we give you on the Microsoft side, like you're seeing
I
that
do I do all the research. I validate them. I actually do
yeah,
the ESP lookup. We do all the things. I'm
yeah, this is
actually
good.
looking
This is
for
good because like it's funny, there were 12 other generic email providers in the Clay waterfall and they all like copied me on this thing, like this MX thing, but it's look, a lot of them have it now. I'm not saying like a lot of them don't, but wasn't that it's not terribly hard, but to put it into the same thing. But Listen, this is what stinks is like it definitely exposed a problem, right? And it exposed why you want to use tools like Smartlead to land in the inbox, why you want to be very like, on top of stuff like that. It's just something big that you want to do, right?
Mhm.
So yeah,
You probably know
it's
where
good
I
you're
work
checking
at.
it.
I'm working
What's
with
that?
Lead Hype. I'm working with Lead Hype, so you probably recognize us.
Oh yeah. I love Lead Hype. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're okay. So you're on their team. Yep. Or you're
Mhm.
working with
Yeah,
Andrew. Yeah.
I'm just trying to learn more. Maybe I could be of a help.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you definitely, I mean, you figured it out, right? Like right now, it is hard. What you're doing is really
Mhm.
hard to do, right? Like it's an incredibly hard thing to do. But the fact that you're checking it and then now you're seeing like a trend, like, hey, probably need to get on this trend. Like that's the thing we talk, when we were talking about it and other people were talking about it, it's like, holy crap, man, if I just email Gmail first. Now, making it hard is like, we can't, it does hurt a percentage of the market that I could essentially get after, right? And
Sure.
killing this is what's actually killing people right now, right? And you got to pick the right TAM for email. There's companies that need this service more now, right? So that's what the half full looks like. All right.
Yeah, the whole purpose of me, I was just scrolling through Smartlead and I found your invitation and I clicked it. I was trying to see if there's a new trend target those Outlook emails without them landing in the spam.
This is where you might want to experiment. There's a couple of services out there, Scaled Mail and the name slips me. Uh, Dean and Omar, those are the two founders. What is that?
Someone said hyper tight.
Has it
That's it.
subscribed?
Sorry, I'm friends with both of them. They're great guys. Talk to them about it. See what they're seeing on there. They seem to be the I kind of would defer some of that to them. I think you could certainly get some maybe something back there. Talk to them. They're probably going to know pretty quickly how good it is. I mean, since their service is sort of based in Outlook, they're probably going to have a pretty good understanding of what's going on there over time. So I would certainly talk to them. That's one thing I would say. They're both, I think, pretty accessible. Scaled Mail and I know Hypertide and I know a couple of my friends, Eric and Nick Abraham, both use services like that. So uh, and I've tried them and stuff like that. I'm trying to be careful on any sort of like one provider because it just changes so much. And if I ever endorse like one specific email delivery provider, literally the next day it could be shot down. People will be like, "What the hell are you doing, Jesse?" And I
That's
know
what I'm
they'll.
trying to say. If
No, it
if
stinks. I
We'll
try not to
just stick
endorse any of them,
to
but I would
one
talk to
question
those
if
guys
that's
right now.
okay. Sorry. Jesse, we just got a ton of questions, but
Oh
thank you
yeah,
so
perfect.
much, mate. I
I
appreciate
guess
it.
I will
We'll just
retreat now to
Yes,
leave the
sir.
space for someone
Appreciate you,
else.
man. Appreciate
Thank
your
you for your time,
support.
guys.
Hypertide and scaled meal, boys. All right,
Yep.
let's go for it. Oh shit, we got the
What's up?
OG.
What's
All right.
up?
What up, mate? All right, I'll jump
There he
off, but
is.
what up, G? It's good to see you, man. Long time.
Guys, nice.
What's
Yeah.
going on,
Thanks.
man?
Good. Guys, so I've been splitting my campaigns into like Google, Microsoft, and neither. And yeah, I actually noticed I've only landed leads from Google, which yeah, no surprise. But yeah, I feel like I've been doing really well using Clave to get personalized, but I just wrecked my infrastructure again, I think. The first campaign, super customized, like 50% variables specific to that ICP. Like, hey, I saw you recently hired this person in this position with these responsibilities. Are you looking to hire more? Literally simple to the point to the CTO, like 2% bounce rate, maybe less on the first email, only valid all email, Google. Second email to those same people, 60% bounce rate. It's like my infrastructure just got destroyed. What mistake did I make? I was sending to another Microsoft as well with those same Google emails, but literally Google to Google, very low bounce rate, and I wrecked myself.
I'm trying to remember right now. I think I fixed one of your deliverability problems
Yeah,
before,
this is
right?
now it's all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I
And
remember. I remember talking to you about it. I
couldn't
never
believe it.
forget these MX records, man. I'm telling you, they're like they haunt me at night, you know. But this, I think, what was the deal on the other one? You had, I think it was Demarkov.
The DMARC that GoDaddy told me to put
Yeah,
was
right.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, look, the best thing to do is I would use a this is where you can really take advantage of the Smartlead, delivery, smart delivery. Things
Mm.
like that really matter. Especially like as you're scaling, right? You need to really check a lot of these systems. What really helps is so the DKIM record is a little tricky if you just use like an MX toolbox. It can sometimes show up misaligned. What you really want to do is you want to check it against another inbox, and that's where placement testing really helps. So I think you probably want to look at that. I don't know, V, if you have anything to add there, but on especially on Smart Lead.
I'm just gonna add just one small pointer, then jump off, which was Outlook's content filter has gone batshit crazy right now. So if you actually look at the bounces, it may not even be a bounce from your actual lead itself. It might actually just be a bounce directly from your Outlook tenant directly, just saying your copy's been blacklisted or blocked,
Yeah.
and simply came from the fact that your emails went through, sure, but then someone did not like what you sent and started blocking it, and then Outlook sender itself blocks it. So you can actually see that because we track all the bounces. You actually be able to see what the bounce message tentatively says. But a lot of it is just coming from Outlook's content filter as to what we're seeing right now.
That's a good point. I think the other thing is you mentioned something earlier that caught me too. You said CTO, so I'm assuming this is a technical audience. And what really stinks about this is like
They hate
this
it.
is one like even harder to solve, right? This is why you want to be paying attention to all of these masterclass type things. Is you're emailing technical people, they understand the importance of a manual spam filter. In fact, it's really funny because there was a company, I don't know if anybody remembers this company, a company called Gated. If anybody remembers these guys now, nice guys, nice company, nice people, right? But what they didn't realize was when I was like watching that thing unfold, and what they didn't realize is by them replying to what they call spam emails, and their opinion are cold emails or whatever, with a something to donate to the CEO's charity, what they didn't realize is they're actually contributing to spam in the world of the internet, right? Obviously, like that was a huge problem. That's probably why the company raised 3 million and didn't make it. But it was kind of like, hey, does anybody think this could hurt you? And it did, obviously, because it wasn't able to get, that's the problem is technical audiences are really good at understanding the fact that you can hit the report as spam. I mean, that's the kill shot right now, right? Like that's the one shot kill. If the headshot, if you will, on a cold email person, right? They just say report as spam. Not much you can do about it. So you got to limit that. You got to do whatever you can do. How many emails are you sending? Are you sending 2 or 3?
Two. It's just two.
Two.
It's
Okay, that's better.
two email accounts per domain, sending 14 cold and 14 warm, 50% reply on the warm.
This
Like
isn't
it's
too
so
bad. I mean, it sounds like the right metrics. It's just gotten harder, unfortunately. That's the only thing I can tell you.
So rebuild.
Yeah, continue on. I would say, look, you got an opportunity with Google. Go there first, right? You probably have some money on the table there. Obviously, it sounds like you're doing the right things. You're using Smartlead. You're using send it. If you were using just a normie sequencer, you'd be in trouble right now. You'd probably be really screwed. But that's kind of how it is.
Let's go. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Bohan.
Thank you.
Next up, before I add Luis, Jesse, picking up one from the chat. So this has been a common one. Does IP masking improve deliverability?
Now, when they say IP masking, what do you mean by that? Are you talking about masking the SMTP that's sending it, or what's
I can jump in if this helps, Nakash. So, IP masking is an interesting concept, yet to be seen through value. Basically, Jesse, the contextual outcome over here is you've got burner domains. Those burner domains effectively go ahead and 301 redirect into that. So instead of 301 redirecting, what IP masking effectively means is to have a dedicated server and the A records of your core domain basically list through that core server. And then you relay your your burner domains actually render your actual website versus a 301 redirecting it. So it looks like you're not a redirector, but you're actually the core website is hosted under the burner domain as well. Yeah.
Here's the look. I think it probably helps in some ways, but I think to actually go implement it, it's a little harder, right? So what you're saying is give it an A record.
So
You give it
it's
like
actually
you
straightforward.
give it like an
You've got dedicated
EC2 A
IP servers
record.
giving up. Yeah, you just basically have you have like 5 EC2 instances that you create yourself.
Right.
You pretty much go ahead and point A records to that EC2 instance. It doesn't matter with respect to blacklisting or not because it's just a server loading a website. And then you pretty much go ahead and tell these people or whoever your customers are to take these secondary domains, and the A records of your main domain have to be pointed there, and the secondary domains also have to be pointed there. What that effectively does is it masks the domain, meaning that prior to, if you went to getleadmagic.com, it would redirect to leadmagic.io, but now getleadmagic.com itself renders the website, effectively removing the 301 record per se, which is an assumable suggestion in the market right now that has an impact on
I like it. I mean, I do. I mean, all principles. It does feel like it would actually help it. I would just tell you that. So I know how you do it. I mean, you essentially could set up like a you'd have to set up a service to do that, right? You'd have to set up a worker. You could use like a pizza redirect or whatever the hell that service is that does it too.
Yes.
You have to put it on one of those Cloudflare worker, maybe you could do there.
No, not even that. Just a straightforward server. You can dump it and you're good to go.
I think if you could do one that has port 25 open, you'd have a better shot if you're really going to do it, right? There's some masterclass for you, but like if you had one that had port 25 and it was looking that way, it might help a little bit. But look, I think the impact, it depends on who you are, right? It depends on how much you're sending. It depends on what you're looking to get. Like there's some of us that are like looking for like even a 0.001 is going to really matter. Like that like small advantage is going to help. I have noticed that most of the services that sell to cold email people for deliverability are doing this. I've back checked it all. Whenever I get an email from one of them, I always check the infrastructure and where they're hosted and all of that. I always run like a, offensive security analysis on their infrastructure to see what I think what's going on. But yeah, I mean, I think it could help, but I also think it's going to be something that you're going to need some help.
It's worthwhile testing. Like my TLDR is, I think there's not enough information in the market for anyone to sit and pitch it. We'd like to go ahead and go through volume on our side. But see how it goes. It's a cool concept. SSLs, I agree with. I think that's a fair call. But it's interesting. Will be interesting to see how it goes.
If you had one
there's lots of things to it. Like it will completely rip apart your SEO. So if you are like a big SaaS business or a big agency and you're driving revenue through SEO, do not do it. Do not do it. You are better hosted on your Webflows and all that other tools. You will completely shred your systems apart. This is only if you've got like a temporary website set up and they, they don't say that in there. Well, I don't know who you're referring to, Benjamin. I'm not going to say anything. But I do not recommend that if you are an SEO focused business. It's not something you want to do. You want to do this in a situation where you've just spun up a website or you're selling a service for a client who knows SEO is not a thing for them, right? If that's the case, definitely. But otherwise, if you're domain masking and you're pointing A records from like another service to another service, don't. This is nothing to do with blacklisting and nothing to do with anything. It's just sorry, Google, but Google SEO is a piece of shit. And if you even make one small change, it just rips into your entire ranking structure. Trust me, we've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in SEO, and you don't want something like that to rip you into pieces. But barring that, it's a great concept. Like Jesse said, try it out. We're yet to release something. But on that note, if I can just take a quick piece, is if the concept of dedicated servers are in play, for those who've seen the announcement, who've not, we do have dedicated isolated infrastructure rolling out on Monday/Tuesday, which effectively means that you no longer have to even have the concept of thought that your servers are shared with anyone else. It's still a very very popular system for us to recommend you to do pre-warmed up servers. However, you can pretty much go ahead and have your own cluster infrastructure set up all by yourself, isolated to your own thing. We monitor the entire blacklisting, we'll monitor the reputation of the IP, we'll monitor the entire deliverability of the IP, auto renew it, move it across, have all of that taken care of. Dedicated to you, it is a combination of bare metal dedicated servers as well as VDPs, which is basically virtual dedicated servers as well, just for you, pre-warmed up and taken care of live and sorted
Sign
out
me
for you
up.
next week. Yes, sir. So you're good to go and taken care of as well. So look, candidly, I don't think it makes that much of a dramatic difference if you were to go on a rotative cycle or not. But I do know some of you really do want that infrastructure in place, especially for Google, which does track some of the headers at times, in which case you will be completely taken care of, protected. And the best part, sorry, I know rambling on. The best part, I think, for this whole thing is as you build up the reputation of your own IP, it just becomes a propelling impact for you, because it just snowballs into the fact that your deliverability will just keep driving up more and more. So you're almost incentivized to it's like your own asset, right? It's like you're building your own home and your own asset, and that just keeps growing up and more and more and more. And the other really fun part for all of you that we'll be doing is, since we have our own warm-up network, we'll actually be sending your warm-up messages through your dedicated server. So
Nice.
you don't need to depend upon getting replies coming through. Your dedicated server will be warmed up through that perspective. So two birds, one stone all of the time.
There's a nasty person who's gonna be mad about this one, and I know who he is, and I know how mad he's gonna be.
We love it. All right.
You know what I'm talking about.
I'll just jump off, but we'll jump onto the millions of questions that we've got.
Let's do it.
Sweet.
Thanks for the bomby. Next up, Luis. Let me quickly spotlight you. Yep, go for it, mate.
I have three questions. Thank you for invitation. I'm too lazy to set up my own infrastructure, and I use like Zapmail or provider from Smartlead, like Infrabox or Inbox Automate. And the problem is I have ESP IP blacklist, but I can't change this because I don't have the the own of the domain. And yeah, do you have some advice for that?
So you're talking. So just to make sure I understand the question. So you are building your own infrastructure outside of Google and Microsoft. You've got a hosting provider. You're seeing your IPs are getting on Blacklist. You're wondering, how do I change my IPs?
No, yeah, but I use Zapmail and or Inbox Automate or something like that, and it's Outlook or Gmail, and I have IPs
Okay.
like
So you're
Blacklist.
using another Okay, you're sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You're using another service and you're trying to get that service. So when you're using those tools like Zapmail or like Inbox, those ones, you sort of have to go through them to get a new IP address. Now, obviously, like, they'll also be limited in their ability to do it. So in one of the cases, like if you're using if they're on Gmail, right, they're gonna have to, like, it probably won't happen, right? So they're not going to be able to change their IP. Like, there's just not really a good way to do that. If they're on their own, like, custom built, service that they've built, maybe it does raise their costs, right? So every time they change IPs, it does raise their costs, both from a people perspective and people perspective and an IP they usually when their ISP changes, and then depending on where you sit there, right? Like, just like anything, if you're getting a lot more than other people are, you're seeing higher reported at spam, lower reputation issues, then they're going to probably throttle you a bit because they know you're going to continue. So, I mean, there's a couple of things here. You have to contact them. Unfortunately, that's the only way to do it.
Okay.
So we've actually got Inbox Automate's team in the chats, so you can actually tag Saksham. He should be online right now.
Yeah, Saksham's a good guy. I like him. So talk to him. He'll help you out. they probably have some way of doing it. They're smart guys over there. I got to be honest with you. It's very, very, very bright guys over there. So if you want to work with them, they could probably help you there. They know a lot about a lot of things. So talk to them.
Okay. And it's different, but also in domain blacklist, it's weird because I can have like a domain blacklist, even if I don't have a HTML in my mail, even if I zero tracking, but I have blacklist in open tracking. I don't understand
Blacklist?
where I can hide.
What's up?
Sorry.
Some
I
of the
think he cut off,
blacklists
but
are
I think his
based on
question
new
was
domains.
basically if he's gone ahead and set up open tracking on his systems, why do they end up getting blacklisted? Is that the question, Louise?
Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, I just heard some screaming for my daughter was giving my wife a hard time, but the blacklist stuff, you just have to check which blacklist you're on. So if it's domain blacklist, if it's relative to your domain being new, that's sometimes what happens. You have to look at that. I mean, it depends on which blacklist you're on, but look, that's just a part of the machine learning model that they're using to find you in spam, right? Like the blacklist itself it depends what you're looking at there. I mean, you got to be careful. It can throw a false negative pretty quickly, right? False negative meaning that they're reporting you as a blacklist, but you're not really in any sort of blacklist at all.
Okay.
Sorry, are you talking
Nothing
about
to do
smart
and
delivery? Is that your question, Louise? Is you're on smart delivery? Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
into smart delivery, yeah, because
Oh,
I
okay.
detect like open
Okay.
open dots like tracking domain, and
Yes.
I don't use tracking domain in my mail.
So that is basically what would end up happening is if you have, well, that depends on the campaign settings, because if the campaign settings have tracking turned on, then it would have the SD track. If they don't have it on, then the email should not be sent with that. If it is, then we'll just get it checked right now because the settings will be perceptive to the settings that you have for that. But either way around, if that is there, you won't need to write. Look, OpenSD track, which is the open tracking that we've got on Smartlead, comes on and off blacklist. It's used by 35 to 40 million emails every day. So always custom event track your mailboxes. That's always a recommendation that we have. But Luis, what I will do is request you to just DM me on Slack, and then we'll just check your account and confirm your campaigns that you've got to confirm if you actually have open tracking on or off on the campaign as to why it has it on SD. Cool.
Okay. Yeah. And I have like just small last question because it's a fight between the French community. It's when we forwarding the domain, I asked in the chat, but I think no one answer, but in deliverability, if I'm forwarding, maybe if I have 10 domain to refer to one domain that decrease the deliverability, or there are no impact or no proof to impact.
So that was the concept we
How
just
do
spoke
people
about.
know is the question.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jesse, go ahead.
This is the big thing. Like we're all guessing. Nobody knows on any of this stuff, really. I mean, there's no way anybody knows, right? So that's why, like I've always said, just ignore some of these gurus out there. There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of them. Some people even called me one occasionally, but I would always say, like, listen, I don't really know. And the answer is like Google and Microsoft have a model. It helps their business. That's usually who you're fighting against. It helps their business grow. It takes other interests into play, right? The fact that probably you guys are all spending a lot of money on inboxes is also a part of it. It's tough to really tell. I don't know. I mean, I think it probably is if it's tough to, maybe 6 months ago it wasn't part of the model, but maybe it is now. Like, who really knows, right? Like, I mean, look, if you have a domain that has 7,000 domains pointed at it, might have a problem, right? I don't know. I'm totally guessing. By the way, it's not hard to figure out how many domains are pointed at a domain. So, but look, listen, the real question is like, how serious are they putting that in the model? Listen, if you want to know what they're really taking serious, if you want the guarantee, I'm telling you right now, guaranteed, it's if you're getting hard bounces is number two, and wait for it. Number one is report as spam always. If you're getting any report as spam, it is just horrible. Like there's nothing worse than that, right? Like that's number one, and that has like a whatever else is out there. Listen, if you're looking for that extra little percent, I mean, you probably want to be careful pointing, you know, over 10, 15 domain, at one. There's also other ways to do that too, by the way, right? I don't think you need to point it. There's a cleaner way to do it. If there's any debate, don't do it, right? If it's gonna, because I mean, the normal way to do it is to not point it. So if there's any debate, then you're probably better off just going with whatever the normal person would do. The normal person wouldn't have anything pointed at their domain. So you could set up a Cloudflare worker. That's what some people are doing. You can build a website and you can have a landing page there. That's an option. It might actually help. Some of your clients might have shitty websites. You could roll one out pretty quickly. Chat GPT. There's a lot of strategies there that you could use. But I think pointing over 50 domains at another domain might start to hurt you now, right? They're probably good evidence of that you could come up with that could help you. But you got to be careful. The only way you'd be able to test that is you'd have to check it against just Gmail, because you don't want to get confused that it's the Microsoft Office thing right now, right? Like that's the real rub of this. It's like cause and correlation, right? Are these things correlated, or is one a cause of the other? Like, it's tough to tell. And you won't know until forever. Nobody will ever tell you. Nobody could prove it either way. It's a good debate, though.
Right. Thanks, Jesse. Thanks, V.
Yep. Let's keep them coming here.
Yep. Next up is Samuel. Here you go. Go for it, boss.
No. Hi there. My apologies for the noise. I'm in the library right now, but the noise is about the library. But just had, to be honest, a simple question that just today I learned a little more about Outlook doing all the stuff that they're doing right now. So I have at the moment a few Outlook accounts at the moment, and I was wondering, is it worth emailing Google accounts with them, or is it better to use delete them and create new accounts with new domains or with the same domains? What do you think is worth them?
So when we were talking about it, just to be clear, I know a lot of people we probably neglected to say, I think we said it once, but it's the recipient email that we're seeing as the major factor. So this obviously we did a pretty good placement test and released it with Smartlead and everything. Smartlead did it with their delivery center. There was a pretty good there was a small percentage difference if you looked between Google and Microsoft to Google. And in some cases, I think even Microsoft performed better to Google than Google did, which was odd too, right? But that could be whatever plus minus percentage off. But either way, I think what you want to, so sending isn't the problem. It's not where it's sent from, it's where it's sent to. So I think maybe I think you're saying should I use my Office ones? Yeah, I don't think you have a problem. You can use the inbox. It's not as big of a deal on the other side. It's the recipient that you're looking at, their MX record.
Oh, makes sense. So it's mainly use who you send it to.
Yep. So if we weren't clear on that, it's basically like you got to look who you're sending to. So you want to scan so don't worry about worry about them, but like in the concept that we're talking about here, looking at what we looked at was where you're sending to. And what we even found in some cases is Microsoft even delivered better to some of the Google ones that we tested. Now, listen, I'm not trying to put a lot of stake in that. What I am putting a lot of stake in, though, is Microsoft is hard to get emails into right now. So if your customers or your clients or your companies you're targeting, prospects, if they're using Microsoft or even the security gateways, it becomes a lot harder. So that's what you got to look at. So keep the Microsoft. Don't cancel the subscriptions yet. Start sending. Look even into services like Hypertide or Scaled Mail, two great services there. Obviously there's a lot of great services in the Smartlead system now too. So take a look there and get back in the primary.
Makes sense. Thanks a lot. I think just one last thing as well. In regards to, because everybody has their own or anti-spam checklist, so things that they do before they launch a campaign to make sure it's not spam. If you had to summarize it to like the core things that you will do every time is to make sure that you have as much chances of not landing in spam as possible before you start the
DKIM check.
campaign.
DKIM check. A lot of people miss that step, or it's like an easy step to miss, even if you're automating, because it's hard to automate, even when you hard step to miss. That's the number one, if I had to say, where I see everybody screwing up. Even some of the best people that I talk to, I had them like send me I'll have them like send an email I'll set up like a webhook email address that will parse if it's on DKIM or not. Pretty simple check, or use like a mailbox placement on Smartlead or whatever, that type of thing. But basically, you could check that if the DKIM is on or not, and you got to check it really from another service, or sorry, like the other side. You got to check it from another inbox. So that's where people screw up. DKIM is one of the areas I'd say. Obviously, like the other stuff just goes without saying. Plain text, no open rate, no click tracking, stuff like that. Like just turn that stuff off. It's not worth your time. If you're really trying to play in the game here. But that's what I would say.
Awesome. Someone was saying something. Here you go, mate.
I said no, no worries. I said thank you for those answers. I really appreciate those.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks. Good questions.
Thanks, mate. Ilham is next. Here you go, boss. Shoot your questions.
Let's
How are you
go.
doing, guys?
Doing
Good.
well. Thank you.
Awesome. I think my camera is cracking a little bit. I'm not sure if you have yeah. Yeah, can you see me now?
Yep. Clear.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, so I have a question to Jesse because here's the thing. I'm in e-commerce, more specifically personal care brands, and I do short form content. And I've been geeking out a lot into just deliverability and following the best just following the best steps, and everything was in order. I only sent from Google Workspace to Google Workspace. I did obviously the 3 week to almost 1 month um, warm-up process. I mean, I'm not going over every single thing, but also the spin tax was in there. Every single thing was in there. And after 2 weeks of just outbound, I just started landing on spam. And I've kept track of my deliverability tests on Smart Delivery as well as on what's the other tool name? Then new one that has the domain masking. I'm not sure what's the name of that tool, but I also did some tests in there. And I don't think that the technical setup is a problem because the spam assassin score is definitely good, like really, really good. I also don't send many emails per day, but I feel like it was, I think that you said, Jesse, which is like the first most important thing is just if people are going to spam you, I'm sorry, to mark you as spam manually. And even though I didn't have any spam words in my script, I feel like since I'm in e-commerce, that is just like normal now, and my emails just burn every 2 weeks. So what is your advice in that?
How many emails are you sending to the person? Are you sending more than two, or is it like a 3-step, or is it two?
No, it's a 3 step.
Okay, so I've seen that third step start to become a little bit of a problem. This is anecdotal. I have some testing data on this, but that third steps is starting to become a little bit of a problem. And I think you're all seeing the patterns that are happening. You got to be more, you got to try to look, the third email gets like, I mean, when we're doing a campaign, it gets like very, very low number of people that actually now you don't necessarily know if they haven't read the first two, but I'll tell you what the third email could be doing. And it used to be the fifth email, but like the third email, what it could be doing to you is it could be actually that's the one that's putting it over. So I would try to go back maybe one there. I think that's going to be big, right? Are you emailing, so when you say you're in spam, when you say that, is that because you're not getting replies?
Well, yeah, first off, like the reply rates just drop significantly. And on
Yeah.
Smart Delivery, also the results drop significantly. But it's super interesting that you mentioned that of the third sequence because like I said, I've been geeking out into the actual smart delivery tests. And what
Yep.
I saw from my Sarek is like the third email, the replies are very low. And so I start sending on week one, but the third email of the sequence only starts triggering on the second week, which was exactly when my deliverability dropped. So that is very interesting that you mentioned that.
The third one we've seen hit people a little bit harder. I'm pretty fixed a lot of these inbox problems, I know. The other one that you had mentioned there, are you emailing? Are you splitting it in terms of Google? Are you sending to Gmail, or are you sending to both Google and Microsoft?
No, I'm just sending Google Workspace to Google Workspace.
Okay. So are you using are you doing like a validation in Smartlead? Because if you do you're doing a validation, Smartlead has a really good validation. Are you doing validation in there? Or you like make sure they're all valid
No,
emails?
I'm doing on Million Verifier, but the bounce rate is below 2%.
Yeah. I've used Million Verifier, yep.
Hmm.
So okay, so yeah, I mean look, I think that's what, so the third email is probably a little bit of a problem. You're not hitting any catch-alls on that you're hitting all valid, just the valid ones on Gmail?
I'm eating catch-alls, but I verify them with it's Nick Abrams' tool, Scrubby, right?
Probably. Okay. If you were going to say which catch-all one, it would probably be something like that. The only thing is like, I mean, Nick's a great dude, but to like, it is still a little bit of a guess. I mean, you're basically you're just emailing them, right? And you're seeing if they bounce.
Yeah,
It, you never know, really. Still, there's a lot of unknown there. I mean, I'm not saying that I think the tool works really well. I think it's the only way to really truly check. If you really have to argue, that's probably the best way to check. Just email the damn thing and see what happens. But there's also this science of like maybe they're just not. I mean, look, the block. If you run the entire internet email infrastructure and if somebody's hitting catch-alls, maybe you're not, maybe like Google and Microsoft have their own financial demands on their companies. So maybe they don't share it with the rest of the internet. Maybe they're just keeping it to themselves. You never know, right? So that's the other thing that they could be happening there. You don't even know really, but we'll never know.
yeah,
So, but I think if you could tone back, maybe go to the two. I'd also look at the like everything is answers. It's funny because we try to answer every question with like without even listening to what the actual copy is or what you're actually offering the person, how it's written, things like that, how relevant it is to that person. Like that's probably the next area you want to go. And I know this audience doesn't really like to go there because everybody is like sort of like trying to engineer it, which is great. And I think
yeah,
that's the approach you should take. But I also think that maybe you want to try to build some things that are a little more relevant, that might hit a different pain point. Maybe so, like in anything you do, right? Ad audiences, like if you're running ads, it's the same lift problem that you have, right? You'll see some ads kill it, and you'll see other ones that don't. And sometimes they're in the same ad set, so it's like the same message. So you got to think of it that way,
yeah,
right? Like if you think about it that way, go. So my advice would be go back to two, and then start to really look
yeah.
and see if you get that email a little more relevant. I would say even not personalized, like relevant, right? So what's the service? It was like a short form content for YouTube.
No, short form content for Instagram and TikTok for personal care
Got it.
brands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe what you want to do on that one does pretty well with an audit already. So what you probably want to do is find a way to scrape what they're doing now,
Hmm.
highlighting something, making some analysis on it, like Claygen or something like that, running that on it, and then telling them what you think of it already and showing that you've done a little research. Because probably
Yeah.
right now your emails don't have like, are you scraping their TikTok and their
Yeah, I am.
channels?
I actually I went a step ahead and because I had deliverability
Wow.
problems in the past, and I actually took a look at each website one by one, and I wrote the product, everything, and I'm offering
Wow.
actually a free video, a full edited video. Like I just say, I did this video for you with your content. Mind if I send it over? But I
That's a
still
pretty
let me
good.
know.
I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, that's much better than a lot of people that I've seen do it. So I think maybe even, if you get to that point and you're emailing Gmail, I'd go down to two.
Okay.
See,
Okay.
I'll tell you what could happen, right? Let's say it was the third one that puts it over. what happens is it starts to kill your deliverability on all of the people that might have responded. Now they're seeing it in spam or they're not seeing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
you know what I mean? Like you got to think about it like once you hit that bad like threshold, what's your reply rate? Is it over 3?
Yeah, my reply rate was really good. It was like 5%, but the problem is keeping it consistently, you know? So I get that reply rate
It's
really
hard.
good.
That's the hard part, right? That is the
Yeah,
hard part.
exactly.
That's where everyone's struggling.
Exactly.
So 3 to 5, right now is probably a good one.
Yeah. And just a question in regards to that. So I'm
So,
sending the first
sorry
email.
to cut
Oh,
it
I'm
off,
sorry.
but we're exceeding the time limit. So there's one more question for the day. Should we jump
Oh,
in?
yeah, sure. I'm sorry, guys. Thank you for your help.
But
Yeah, great
mate,
questions.
you can drop it on the Slack chat,
Back.
yeah, and I think we'll get that
Yeah,
answered for
yeah.
you 100%. Cheers, buddy.
Sure. Thank you very much, guys.
Yep, cheers. Last question for the day. Ricardo, you're up. Unmute yourself and go for it, sir.
Hey, how's it going? Hey, Jesse. Thanks for this webinar.
Hey, thank you.
So I have 3 short questions. The first one is, I keep seeing segmentation of campaigns and excluding MX records like Barracuda and whatever. Which ones should we be excluding? Like, I'm totally unfamiliar with this. Like, what would you recommend excluding in terms of security?
Yeah. So I think it's maybe not as much about so like the thought process of why we put it in the product of our Finder was around we wanted to make sure that people knew they've invested security gateway. So anything that's not Google or Microsoft can kind of tell you, well, in most cases, is like a security gateway, right? A lot of the times it's like unless it's like Zoho or there's a couple other ones like like Bluehost and some other ones, but the point is like if you look and see if it's like, hey, if it's Barracuda, that means they've invested specifically to solve this problem. And just by that, that, it's not a bad intent signal. But what I would say is testing against these different ones is a little bit more of it's a better answer. Like assuming it's going to be bad is probably not the best approach. So I think you test a little bit. I'd say the ones that are really expensive and have like the Fortune 500 uses, right? Those are going to be the ones like Mimecast and Proofpoint. Those are going to be the ones you're going to really hate. Cisco Ironport is going to be really bad, right? You're going to have a really bad time getting anything into Cisco Ironport or any of those, because it's just they just what they do is they just block everything, right? It's just a block everything strategy, and then that's it, right? Now, fortunately, there's still a really large market that uses Google. If you're going to be targeting, you want to look at the recipient ESP of Google as your top choice right now. I know maybe Google won't like hearing this, but that's probably the best way to do it.
Okay, but what if it's like an MX record that I don't know, I don't recognize, like it doesn't look some.
I mean,
like,
the best thing to do is to look at the company that has the MX record. Like if it's their own custom one, maybe that's not as bad. That could be easier.
Yeah,
Actually, that could be but I think you look at the company. So if it's like Barracuda, you go look, and if it's like email delivery, stop spammers, stop cold emailers, like if that's their whole website, then you probably want to avoid that one because they're probably doing a bunch. They're not. Look, we're just trying to make it easy for everybody, right? Like that's the goal. Not that anyone's spamming in here or sending emails that wouldn't fall into the business relevant category of can spam, but it's just the way it is, right? Like you got to kind of look at that and determine what's the best for you. I think Gmail right now is going to be your best if I had to really like put a thumb on it.
Yeah, it's just very
Google.
limiting, but
It is.
Yeah, for me it's pretty
You
bad.
and there's a lot of other people that I know that send a lot of emails that are deeply, deeply, deeply impacted by this, but it's a good opportunity to write better emails, really focus on some of the things that you can do. And look, fortunately, we have tools like Smartlead to like guide us and tell us what not to email. And these types of sessions, like you're not showing up on like the outreach.io call and they're telling you what to do. Like they're gonna just go into spam forever, right? So you're getting your value worth on the Smartlead investment.
Yeah, and speaking of tools to write copy, that was my other question. What would you guys recommend, like, or several recommendations Today I was playing around with Twain. I think it writes decent emails, but I'm not sure what are your thoughts around that, and if you have any other recommendations.
Yeah, so Twain's I mean, Twain, I've heard of, I've talked to the founder there a couple times. Seems like a good dude. Seems like they're doing stuff. The only thing I would say is like, I think the best is going to be like your own knowledge of the industries. Like, what's your offer? Like, what are you typically promoting, or like, what's your typical business that you're targeting? What are you trying to sell them?
Are you asking me? Okay, it's a financial consolidation tool, so it's for close management. It's a bit hard because we're very early stage, so we're still trying to figure out ICP, so use
Yep.
cases vary. We don't have like, oh,
Got it.
this industry is amazing. Yeah, we have like
You're in a
20
tough, yeah, it's a tough scenario, right? So you got to try to figure out like what the actual reason that they would buy it against, like the people that you have now. Do you have any customers now?
Yeah, we have almost 20 customers. Yeah.
So ask them. So the best thing to do is ask them why they bought it and what situation that they were in that made them buy it. Like what was the exact thing that happened right before, obviously. And if it's like, well, we got referred in and then we liked it and we bought it, well, see if you can find one that actually like sort of like hurt, like a little less close to the vest, like not as like this is where VC introductions can be a hard, like it's obvious like how you just can't, it's hard to scale it that way, right? Like that's why a lot of companies struggle there. But you probably know it better than me. That one sounds like a little bit the one who did I just gave a good example, the one who did TikTok short form content and Reels or for Instagram. That one I mentioned you should probably do an audit of their service or their sort of like content and make some suggestions of like how you could help. So like that's why like when you say like any of these like tools that write the emails, they're gonna have limited value just because like they don't know your space. So if you know the space, your founders, you whatever, anybody in the company, you can probably figure it out quicker and find like what was the pain point and how could you find like internet evidence of that happening at a company is really what you need, right? A good way to find out if somebody's dealing with email security issues is to see if they adopt tools like Mimecast and Proofpoint, right? So the people who are adopting those typically are having that problem. That's why they've adopted those tools. Probably
But
Mimecast. Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but even then, you still want to create like a unique copy per, like even if you know all that stuff, you still want to have a unique copy per email or not, or you don't think it matters. I remember once you said that spin tag doesn't
I haven't
matter.
seen much. I honestly, I haven't seen a huge change in deliverability with reply rates on any sort of like spin tax or anything like that. And now people will challenge me on this one, but I have never seen it. Honestly, like I think that I have to imagine they're smart enough to figure that out now. But I think I'm not saying don't do it. I mean, that's obviously like, yeah, it's probably makes sense to change the copy of the emails. But I think what's going to really resonate is if you get some replies somehow, or what's going to be good for you is if you get the replies because the replies compound, right? So if you email 100 people, replies are how you get to the next 100 people.
I see.
So that's the real big thing. So if you're emailing a lot of people and you're not getting your replies, probably shut it down. Figure out,
Right.
Go back to the drawing board, figure out another offer. I mean, everybody likes a free lunch. So if that's what you got to do it, maybe that's what you got to offer. That's the reality. Like that, it stinks to say that. Like, well, I don't, the people complaining, well, I don't like teams that offer people free shit, and it's like it's not going to work in our model. Well, everybody likes a free lunch. So, you give them a free lunch, you send them, you do something like that. You're gonna have, like, that's the reality. Some offers just don't work, right? Like people don't want it. And then that's like good testing for your own company, like to kind of figure out your product market fit. That's why I think it's a really good to run cold emails as a founder. Like I would never want to invest in a company unless I saw one of their cold email campaigns because you could really know, and you wouldn't have investors screwing you up and founders who can sweet talk you into a good deal.
I'm picking one from the chat that's really interesting, Jesse. So,
Yeah.
Ricardo, that would answer your question.
I can only imagine coming from this group. I like it.
Sounds good.
I think one final question which everybody has on mind. Considering it's this time of the year, how should the sending pattern be, Jesse? Should people scale down their campaigns? Should they scale up? Should they continue sending the way they send?
Scale it down.
What are
What
your
are you
thoughts?
talking about? No way. Send more. Send more, man.
You are
I
the
don't know.
man. You are the-
I don't know. You got bills to pay. What are you doing? Don't send less. Send more and test more. This is the time to do it. You get a lot of replies now because of the out of office start. I don't know. By the way, nobody knows if that's an impact or not. Like I would imagine it is. I think it's hard for them to mask that one. That's like a weird one. Like maybe they the out of office like replies. You're going to get a lot less report spam, right? You by default you're going to get less people. Well, sorry, if you're sending the same message over 2 periods of time, you'll get less people because there's less people working the holidays, right? I say send on Christmas. I mean, what's the big deal? Like, go out there and do it. Like, I know there was one sequencer company that shut down during a holiday, but it was like, I mean, Smartlead's open on Christmas. Like, I know you guys are going to be running those servers. Like, keep sending, fire the cannons out, don't leave anything for chance. Like it's much better to hit your targets and your goals, your financial, than to sit there and, I'd say send on the weekends too. Who cares? Maybe give it a 1 day breath, like so you're not looking too body, but too much like a bot. But 6 days a week, why not? Let's do it. Keep
Awesome.
sending.
And something that you said was really interesting. Probably this is the time where you can experiment as well. So all that you got from here, this is the time to experiment, test it out, full send. You had this even over the weekends. Probably a day for breather.
I'll tell you what the result's going to be. Your out of office reply rate will go up. That's one thing I can guarantee. You're going to get a lot more. Now, look, use it. I mean, who knows, right? I think it is hard. I think it really, everyone's looking at like Blacklists and Internet and MX, but at the end of the day, there's two companies that make the decision if your email is getting into your inbox, right? It's Google and Microsoft. So if they want your emails, they'll take them. And if they don't, they got, and look, they're on both sides. They're helping you. They're helping, they've run all of the circuits. So whatever they think is the right move for them, for their business. And, they're also the same companies that are bringing AI to the market, and like, so they definitely have they can figure things out pretty quickly in their own system. Now, probably it's not even, they probably don't even have large teams building these things. It's probably a lot of contractors. It's probably in like, those are like legacy products. They probably don't even, there's not even much innovation going on. Like, I don't even, like Gmail changes like once every 10 years. It barely changes. So who knows, right? You don't know. Somebody here might even have friends who work on the team. I mean, you can imagine contractors and things like that they have, but we'll never know. But I would say keep sending and have a happy holiday.
Awesome. And here we come to the end of the session. Thank you so much, Jesse. As
Yeah,
always.
anytime.
This
Thank
is
you.
super insightful.
Appreciate it. Yep.
Well, Akash, you're dropping
Love
off
having
at the
you
very
here,
last
and
minute.
really-
Akash, your Microsoft,
Yes, sir.
your
And
Microsoft,
you're-
microphone's dropping off. But to just make up for Akash's microphone, everyone, thank you so much for showing up over here. Have a beautiful day. We may or may not have these office hours next week and the week after, simply due to the holidays. We're gonna definitely try next week for sure. But in case we don't, we'll let you know. We're gonna have some more deliverability experts coming in. It's gonna be massive, major, and epic. So for those of you who stayed back, the about 80 of you, surprise. 5 of you lucky winners will be selected, and you'll be given 12,000 email verification credits that also do catch-all verifications as well. So it's a win-win for you all. Enjoy it. And for those who care and wanted to know, Smart Servers is going to be out next week. So enjoy that. It will be in beta, but the full launch will be happening in January, whilst we get the full gang win for all of you. So thank you all. Have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful week. Like I said, 3 consistencies in life for all of us: taxes, death, and office hours every Thursday. Thank you. Take care and see you all soon. Goodbye.
Thank you.